I've been warning that stocks could be peaking here. Stocks now, as we all know, have been overstimulated and overvalued for years, and they just continue more the same and more than ever. The real interesting item right now is the Treasury bonds. The Treasury bonds are always going to be overvalued too, and all bonds, because all this money coming in, that's where, the central banks buy bonds first, and then the profits from that trickle into buying stocks, and it always ends up in stocks more. But all of these financial assets are over. But the Treasury bonds have gone mad, okay? We know right now the inflation rate has edged up to just over 5%. Jerome Powell said the other day, everybody thinks this is very temporary. He says, no, I don't see it being that temporary. And I don't either, but I do not see it lasting, of course, because I see a downturn coming. Now, but I looked the other day, even in long-term expectations of inflation, 1.5% to 2%. So a 10-year, even with that long-term outlook, forget the 5%, 1.5%, 2%, 1% above that minimum, they should be, we should be getting 2.5% or something, 2.5% on these Treasury bonds. And so at 1.2 to 1.3%, really, this is really a bubble in the Treasury bonds. So we have stocks highly overvalued and Treasury bonds highly overvalued. And normally, it wouldn't be as much for the bonds at this point in the cycle. So the real killer here is, of course, the crypto and Bitcoin. Bitcoin had a very strong run, it's 65,000, and it has corrected, but it's the opposite for Bitcoin and crypto right now. It is extremely oversold, not overbought like stocks and Treasury bonds. It looks like it should rally significantly, and stocks and bonds both look ready for a downturn. Now, so the big questions here. Is the stock downturn going to be a correction in, say, in August, and that's a natural correction month, and then go up one more time in September before it peaks? And believe me, that's already pushing this way beyond what it should have been. By my best cycles, and they're very good by now, that this long-term bull market on the technology cycle should have peaked by early to mid last year, okay, kind of when it did with COVID, okay? So we're already pushing this way beyond, but this is unprecedented stimulus, okay? So is this a minor correction in stocks, and then we go up one more time and then crash? Or if we do start to go down here soon in August, is it the beginning of this 50% plus crash? And that sounds crazy, but it's not crazy if you look at what I'm looking at. Every major bubble has done this. First crash, 40 to 50% down in 2 to 3 months. That is what you should expect if you understand bubbles and first crashes, okay? So are we on the cusp of that? And then, of course, the bonds would go even lower yields in that case. Or do we see the bonds being so extremely overvalued, such low yields, have to catch up back to real inflation, and that hits stocks and sends them down? So there's a couple triggers for stocks and that sort of thing. Now, the wild card here, though, is the crypto and Bitcoin.
Before we continue, help us by smashing that YouTube like button and subscribe now to this channel. This shows the algorithm that you value the information, and it helps us spread this message. Sharing is caring. Please like and subscribe now. Thank you. And now, let's continue.
It is the opposite. It is extremely oversold. And in the cycle, since it became something in kind of 2009-10 and started to rally strongly, it's peaked late every 4 years on a lag, about a year and a half to the halving. So late 2013, late 2017. So the most likely peak would be late this year. So this 65,000 run has corrected. Bitcoin is just as oversold as it was right in the middle of the 2017 rally and right before the big rallies in 2011 and 12 that set this whole thing off. So this is saying Bitcoin should rally, stocks and bonds should fall. So is it a big rally in crypto? Is it a big fall in stocks and bonds, or something in between? So here's the wild card scenario. And this is wild. And I actually almost favor this at this point. Stocks could start to weaken, bonds, and it happens quicker because of this first crash scenario. And crypto, surprisingly, becomes the first, now note that I said first safe haven play. I do not expect crypto to be the safe haven in the end when this crash happens any more than gold. Gold rallied in the early stages of the 2008 correction and then went crying to mommy with stocks and bonds and everything else in the end, okay? And crypto is the biggest bubble here. But let's say crypto does make another strong run. I've showed in the newsletter recently as high as 115,000 by the end of this year. And by the way, no matter what Bitcoin does, if it does rally or whatever, I'd be out by the end of the year on this 4-year cycle, okay? So that's the wild card scenario. Stocks do start to crash. We do see a 50% or so correction by early to mid-October, which is a classic bottoming point in bad cycles. And the bonds go up in value because the slowing they're seeing actually happens. And the bond markets are the best at seeing slowing. So I don't discount the fact that the bonds are saying, we don't care about 5% inflation if the bonds think the economy's about to collapse. And that's what they may be saying. So that's the wild card scenario. Stocks crash, bonds go up modestly at first, and crypto makes the biggest move, the final bubble of bubbles saying, we're the safe haven, we're the safe haven. And then when it really gets tough by early next year, 2022, in the worst year of all my cycles ahead for a long time, 2022, then we see stocks approaching a bottom late 2022, 23 sometime, and crypto crashes more than anything. So if crypto does rally, get out by the end of the year, it wouldn't hurt. I tell you, I would consider having some Bitcoin just in case this happens. And if it doesn't start pretty soon, then the odds go down. But that's the crazy scenario. Bitcoin goes up the roof. Stocks crash faster than anybody think for the next few months, 50%, which my megaphone and all the first crashes say is highly likely. And the bonds go up. And so this is going to be an interesting time.